This is our home, Jamaica, and tourism is the lifeblood of our country. Let's all feel good again. Whether with family or friends, we want you to enjoy your staycation.
We have to ensure that they are comfortable, they feel well protected.
New standards are in place to ensure your safety. We are here to serve you better, so you can have the best experience. Come out and rediscover Jamaica.
We are ready.
We are ready.
We are ready.
Rediscover Jamaica.
Heartbeat of the world.
Good morning and welcome to part 2 in a series of online forums being organized by the Tourism Linkages Network, a division of the Tourism Enhancement Fund, an agency of the Ministry of Tourism. Now, a special welcome to our viewers on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Please be sure to follow Tourism Enhancement Fund on all social media platforms at TEF Jamaica. I'm your host and moderator for this morning, Taisha Turner, Director of Tourism Trade and International Relations in the Ministry of Tourism. Now, to give you some background on the Tourism Linkages Network, it plays an essential role in supporting the tourism industry's goal of achieving growth and development targets through the creation and the strengthening of linkages between local suppliers of goods and services and the tourism industry. The network continues to play a key role in creating collaborative partnerships that build capacity and sustainability, which are key drivers of socioeconomic advancement. The work of the Tourism Linkages Network impacts stakeholders across a number of industries and sectors, specifically agriculture, manufacturing, gastronomy, sport and entertainment, shopping, health and wellness, and knowledge. The Knowledge Network, in keeping with its objective to foster the growth of the tourism knowledge economy, has engaged in the development of strong intellectual and practical partnerships and linkages from which knowledge can be leveraged and applied. Now, if you joined us last month, you would have recalled our discussion on the diversification of Jamaica's tourism product. Now, this morning and this month, we'll be discussing the strategic framework for resetting Jamaica's tourism. And this is dubbed the Blue Ocean Strategy. Now, we have an esteemed panel of leaders in Jamaica's tourism ecosystem. We have Mr. David Dobson, who is the Chief Technical Director in the Ministry of Tourism, Dr. Kerry Wallace, the Executive Director of the Tourism Enhancement Fund, and the Director of Tourism, Head of the Jamaica Tourist Board, Mr. Donovan White. Now, we're going to begin with framing the Blue Ocean Strategy. And Mr. Dobson, who has been with the Ministry of Tourism since 2014 and is a Rotarian, is quite passionate about community service, and community empowerment through the development of small and medium-sized tourism enterprises, as well as community-based tourism enterprises. Mr. Dobson, the floor is yours.
Thank you so very much, Taisha, our moderator. Good morning to our fellow panelists. Good morning to the chair and members of the Knowledge Network, and to all our listeners and participants this morning. A very great morning to you. I want to move quickly in the interest of time, but I must indicate that I am always so excited to share information regarding not just our strategic direction, but the whole matter of tourism and how do we build back tourism because of its importance to the Jamaican economy. And so this morning, most of us would have heard all these wonderful words about Blue Ocean Strategy. And so this morning, I want to take a few minutes to share with you about the Blue Ocean Strategy. I'm trying to share my screen. There. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, we are.
Good, thank you. Good. Right. So we want to talk a little about what exactly is this blue ocean strategy that everybody has been talking about. I'm going to give a little bit about it just to put it in context and to open your appetites. And the speakers after me, they are going to give you more details and they will speak more about the what. But I'm going to tell you just about the concept and the principle. So first of all, what it is that I will be touching on in my presentation. We'll talk just a little background. Then I will just talk about some critical needs that the sector has that would have pointed us in this direction. We'll give you some information about the Blue Ocean strategy. We will discuss a little about the framework itself. We will talk about the direction now that this Blue Ocean strategy has pointed us into, and what are the outcomes that we expect to have. And of course, we will conclude on a few points. Now, this discussion regarding Blue Ocean strategy has been around for a little while. So when we had our strategic planning retreat in 2019, that was a discussion. And of course, we were concerned about one major thing that at that point, when we did a review, our growth rate was in fact increasing. And you do know that tourism remains perhaps the only sector that has grown like over the past 30 years. But we did recognize that we continued to increase in visitor arrival and foreign exchange earning, but that was happening at a decreasing rate. Now, that was an indication for unsustainability, hence we were concerned. Then the discussions also took us into what is going to happen with this COVID-19, because boy, it came and it ravaged our sector. In 2020, we saw a 68% decline in our arrivals and all of 64% decline in our earnings. And so we're saying, my word, what next? How do we build back and how can we bounce back and go forward stronger? Then we also had some critical needs that we thought had to happen. So just mention that one, why we have to bounce back, and not only bounce back, but look here, we have to come differently. So we have to increase also the retention of tourism dollar, and we have to ensure greater contribution to the economy. That is important. Then we also want to focus on inclusiveness. More Jamaicans need to be included in the tourism product and need to benefit from tourism. And we also want to know that there was increased linkages. The Jamaican produce need to be much more a part of the tourism sector. And we do know that not only because of COVID-19, because we do have some changes in demand given the COVID itself. But apart from that, a new breed of travelers emerge. You do know there are several generational cohorts coming up, and their demands just get different as they emerge. So we also needed to focus on meeting the needs in demand for these modern travelers. Then there is some reality that we must face and look at what they are. We must do a shift in our mindset to uncover the hidden opportunities in our tourism sector, because there are many untapped ones that we must discover. We must also depart from the traditional models that was based on head-to-head competition, and we must focus elsewhere in building out our product. We must pursue some enhanced value creation through differentiation and diversification in our product. And of course, we always set targets for ourselves. We are coming from where we had the same 5 by 5 by 5, and we came very close to achieving it. And we have now just the target a little more, where we want to achieve 5 million visitors, $5 billion in earnings, and 5,000 new rooms by 2025. So those were realities that we face that now we are saying, oh, we must achieve. So what exactly is this Blue Ocean strategy? Now, it is a new business model, while we refer to it as many things, a framework and all of that, but it is a business model that focuses on value creation, differentiation in product, and diversification. And this strategy ensures a safe, secure, and seamless experience for our visitors, and it allows us to create new demands in unique and uncontested space. In other words, we are moving away from competition and we want to build out unique experiences so that we can just woo visitors to come because you have something that is also special. Now, just to compare what it is we regard as our current business model versus what we are looking at for Blue Ocean strategy. The current business model is essentially investment driven, and it has a lot of accommodation. We know that we have majority of our visitors, they come and they stay in all inclusive, and over 80% at the moment of our room stock are all inclusive. And we recognize that sometimes when they are in these environments, they do not experience all of Jamaica and the unique products that we're trying to focus. By referring to investment though driven, we are just trying to say that efficiency in producing standard products and services is what their dominant source of competitive advantage is. And so we want to move away from that, not just about efficiency in standard products, but we want to move away to now what we see in the Blue Ocean strategy: product differentiation and innovation, value creation and uniqueness. That's the difference that we are trying to bring to the fore. Now, we see here that we do have demand conditions, supply conditions, the institutional governance measures and human capital measures as the critical components, strategic components of this strategy. Demand measures essentially speaks to the needs and the wants and expectations of our visitors, especially those that we described earlier, the ones, the new travelers, and the ones that have new demand. And our supply measures are the availability of accommodations, attractions, activities, and all the amenities and ancillary services, you name it, that are required. And institutional governance measures speaks to efficiently and effectively coordinating and collaborating and establishing good cooperation among our key stakeholders so that it assures us a resilient, sustainable, and competitive tourism sector. You'll notice that you hear these words repeated many times. The human capital measures now is just the economic value of our employees. That set of knowledge and habits and competencies and all that motivation that they need to have, and enthusiasm, and those personal attributes that we very often don't pay much attention to. All that makes up the human capital measures that we must focus on in order to get this Blue Ocean strategy working for us. And as you can see, that image was deliberately placed there to say, well, there you get a taste of some heritage and culture, which is the direction in which we are going. Now, there are some pillars which I'll go very quickly. And these pillars, I'm trying here to juxtapose the Red Ocean strategy, which more represents the current model, with the Blue Ocean. And as you can see, if you look on the right side of it, with the Red Ocean strategy, you compete in existing markets. And for Blue Ocean, we focus on uncontested market, right? And when you look at you're trying to beat the competition with the Red Ocean, we want to make competition irrelevant with the Blue Ocean strategy. And for Red Ocean, you are exploiting existing demand, but we now want to create new demand and capture them and make the best of them. And while we are making the value trade-off, we want to break the value cost trade-off with the Blue Ocean strategy. And there is just one little difference between that last one with the alignment of the systems firm of a firm's activity. And one is looking at their choice of differentiation or low cost. But we are looking at pursuit of differentiation and low cost. And if you look at the one on the left now, you can see that Red Ocean is pretty much focused on driving down their cost in order for their value innovation. But with Blue Ocean, we are interested in driving down the cost, but more so for the buyer value. That is what is critical with the difference in the strategies that we're bringing to you here now. So let us look at the framework. And the Blue Ocean strategy, if you will find several materials and it will give you a lot more information that we're providing you today. But it offers several tools for analyzing and organizing an organization's framework. That's what that should have been. So I apologize for the error. So the framework offers several tools for analyzing an organization's strategic framework. And there were 4 tools that we used: the 6 parts framework, the ERRC grade, the 4 hurdles to execution, and the strategic canvas. I am not going to take you through these various things, but I want to just hone in on the one that I think is most important for this setting, and which is the ERRC grid. And as you can see from that image on the slide, ERRC speak to what? Eliminate, reduce, raise, and create. That's really what it is, and that's where focus was. So for example, when you do this, you want to determine, based on our current model, what it is that we really want to eliminate. And perhaps you'll come up with things like, tourist harassment and poor solid waste practices and all of those. So we say, all right, with the Blue Ocean strategy, we want to eliminate those. What are some things that we want to reduce? And we can talk about what now. You want to reduce the foreign exchange leakages and some of that environmental footprint. Yes, you want to reduce those and all of that. And what you want to raise, now that's the section that is going to be very tall and a long list of things, because that's where the value is, right? We talk about the human capital, the innovation and entrepreneurship, the satisfaction of our visitor, and their propensity to return, because that is what is important. We want to raise the quality of our customer service and all of that. And when we talk about create, now that's where the new product experiences and new attractions and these marquee attractions and all these come in as to what it is. And I'm sure you can find many others. But that's just giving you an example of what the thought process was when we did this exercise. Now, the new direction. And I'm doing it in such a summary format, so I'm hoping that I'm not losing you anywhere. So in the new direction, we are now seeking to establish goals. And as you can see, there are 5 goals displayed in blue at the top. The first goal, to make the tourism sector more resilient to future shocks. We want to make tourism environment sustainable. We want to offer visitors an unmatched value proposition through innovation, diversification, differentiation, same words we've been calling all along. We want to balance the investment portfolio. Yes, we must have accommodation, but we want attraction and we want multiple activities, because we're saying these new travelers' demand is that when they travel to a destination, everybody wants to do many things, multiple experiences. And when they do it, they want to get a selfie, that they can post it and say, hey, I was in Jamaica and I did that. So we want to create that kind of environment where not only you come and you spend time being pampered and, sun and sea, and you get a tan and you lie on the beach with some cucumber over your eyes. And no, people want to hit the street. They want to go everywhere. They want to see what you do and do what you do and eat what you eat. And so saying we want to balance the portfolio. Also, we want to move away. And I have to be careful how I say that. As we go along and build out our room stock, we also want to see the introduction of more EP hotel rooms, right? So that persons have the opportunity to consume more local products. And we want to strengthen the value chain. And what the last thing I mentioned is really speaking to that, ensuring that they have more Jamaican products and reduce leakages. And we see community tourism and rural tourism and all of those coming to the fore as ways to achieve those. So we want to make the competition irrelevant, and it applies to all the goals. And goals 1 and 2 will break the value cost trade-off. Goals 3, 4, 5 will create and capture new demand. And in the 3, 4, 5 again, we will realign the organization's process and system, towards differentiation. And the 3 and 4 is where the focus will be for creating tested markets. So that gives you an idea why the Blue Ocean strategy and the direction in which Jamaica is going with it. Now, this is giving you an example, and it's a busy little slide. I hope you can read it, but it is actually giving you an example of the outcomes that we anticipate from all of this. Really and truly, I believe that all of the outcomes you see on the left-hand column here are applicable to all of the goals that we have at the top here. But we put a tick to indicate the ones that are perhaps most applicable to the ones there. And I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but you can see all the outcomes here, the resilience and the offering of natural and cultural heritage and the participation in tourism activities connected to rural and cultural, improve readiness of the workforce, increase the rate of innovation, the share of the tourism value chain produced and delivered by Jamaican businesses. You know, that is very important. So, you know, I have to take an extra minute here to say this one is where we are saying the business people, all who have a little bit of entrepreneurship in you, you need to get a bite of the share of the tourism product. We need to reduce the level of tourism harassment. Oh yes, I have to talk that softly, but it's true. And we need to increase the satisfaction in the tourism experience. And we need to increase the use of evidence making for data and quality. So all those are outcomes that we anticipate from the use of this Blue Ocean strategy. Then let me conclude by indicating to you that not because we mentioned that the over 80% of our room stock are all inclusive, we are not saying that we are abandoning what we currently have. What we're simply doing is trying to complement our existing products with the innovative strategies that we mentioned in the strategy. The product must be consistent with changing demand of today's travelers. We have said that several times before. Jamaica's heritage and culture should be the basis of development of unique products. For all who have not come on board as yet, we are full of heritage and cultural assets. So we must build them out. That's all we're trying to say here. And so all our investors and entrepreneurs look in that direction, please. And we must include more locals in the tourism value chain to support the outcomes of this strategy. So if you feel left out, talk to us. We probably can guide you. Perhaps the speakers to come after will give you more specific examples of how you can be included. And we want to ensure that there is full alignment of the ministry and its public bodies and the wider sector, because we are all going to be doing this together, because tourism is for all of us. So what are we saying? Zoom, the plain land, let us provide our visitors with multiple authentic heritage and cultural experiences. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dobson, for your comprehensive presentation, comprehensive, engaging, and entertaining. And you know, that is one of the passion points that we have, entertainment. Just to remind our viewers on social media that you'll have an opportunity to pose your questions to the panelists. So please feel free, if you're on Instagram, YouTube, or Facebook, just to indicate your question. And you can also indicate to whom you'd like the question to be directed, so that when we get to the question and answer segment, we can have you included, as Mr. Dobson spoke about inclusiveness and partnerships. Now, our next speaker has been the executive director of the Tourism Enhancement Fund since 2017. Now, never mind that, he has over 23 years of experience in the tourism industry, and armed with his PhD in social psychology, he is very passionate about bringing his leadership acumen to the helm of TEF, and he's also very passionate about running. Now, if you see him out and about, you can strike up a conversation in German or Spanish. Dr. Wallace, you have the floor. I think you're still muted, Dr. Wallace.
Thank you. Thank you, Taisha. And thank you. And good morning, panelists and listeners and viewers. I'm pleased to be here to talk about Blue Ocean strategy and more of the application as far as how the TEF has incorporated that strategy in its rollout of its various projects across Jamaica. So I will share my screen as well now, if that's okay. I see, let me know when if that is up. Checking if you are seeing my screen as yet.
Not as yet. We're still seeing you, Dr. Wallace.
Try and share again. Pardon me? Turn again? Okay. All right, how is it now? Oh, hang on, let me click the share button. How is that? All right, great, thanks. All right, so I wanted to start out by giving a few examples of companies that I've known adopt the Blue Ocean strategy with tremendous success. The first one I think everybody will be familiar with is Facebook. And if you think back to when the internet was around, yes, and the time before Facebook, you really had a case where most of the successful websites that were around were pretty much websites of media houses, CNN.com, TVJ.com, and so on, that would have a crew of persons going out and getting content and then uploading and then making their website current and making sure it has rich content, and then it became attractive to the users. Facebook created a model that they didn't have to have employees going out and getting content and coming and uploading. They created a model where they just provided the framework for the user to post their own content. Each person created their own account and then uploaded their own selfies and their own pictures and their own text and so on. And that revolutionized the entire online industry to the point where, I mean, everybody knows of Facebook's success. So that was Blue Ocean. They didn't going in competing to say, oh, I'm going to put in better journalists and better content providers and better. They just went into a totally untapped market and gain new customers, as David described so well of the process. How you pretty much you go from competing to innovation to going into areas where no other person has gone before. I'll give you another example that's closer to our industry, which is Airbnb. A similar model. Before, it would be where the accommodation sector really would be hotels, large hotels, small hotels, villas, and so on. Airbnb came up with a model using technology, the benefit of new technology, because something like this could not have happened a few years ago before the internet and so on. So with the trends of today, you can then innovate and create whole new offerings that nobody else is providing. And you see Airbnb's growth. I mean, they're the largest accommodation provider in the world today, bigger than the Hilton, bigger than all those other brands who have been there for generations. One of the things I think even specific to Jamaica that would qualify as a Blue Ocean strategy was when we actually introduced all inclusives. Before it was EP hotel accommodations. I remember, and I know I'm going to show my age now, the days of Negril Beach Village, which is what became Hedonism 2, which was our first all-inclusive, right? So, and at that time they had shark teeth, which was a medium of value. So when you checked in, you bought these beads that you could add together and it could form a bracelet or a chain of shark teeth, so that when you're swimming, you just wear these things and you wouldn't have to be handling cash and so on to buy drinks at the bar, that kind of thing, which was the standard way of hotel accommodation sector during that time. So when they developed the all-inclusive concept, nobody else was doing it. Club Med to a certain extent, but they package it together so well, and the rest is history. And so we see where the opportunity for a country like Jamaica, where it has so many natural assets, outstandingly beautiful island, rich in culture. Really, from a tourism standpoint, all Jamaicans should be wealthy from tourism. And so the opportunity we have here with all these positive trends of the internet, trends of the software and the application, and just the popularity of how users use mobile data and how their mobile phones are such an integral part of their experience now, whether at home, at work, or on vacation. I can't think of anybody on this planet now who would think it's a good idea to leave their phone at home and go on a holiday, unless it's a really niche detox kind of vacation experience. But I know more persons who can't even get into their car without their phones. So they check for their phones and realize then they don't have it. And oh my God, they rush back to get it. So much of our trends now and which present opportunities for a destination like Jamaica that has what I would call untapped potential, because in our view of creating an inclusive tourism, I mean, Jamaica inclusive is what we're talking about, not all an all-inclusive hotel. We're talking all of Jamaica participating and benefiting from tourism. We are right next door to the #1 economy in the world. We are the 3rd largest English-speaking country in the Americas. So we are a short-haul trip from the US and North America, and we speak their language, and we have these amazing features that combined make us the envy of other destinations. I mean, it's one thing to have these mountains and rivers and waterfalls and beaches and so on. And it's another thing to have an industry that's synergistic with that enjoyment, that leisure enjoyment, which is music, which is our reggae, which is also competing in the best music forms in the world. So when we put those two together, you know, when we start adding gastronomy, you know, there's so much that we have that we are deserving of tourism creating wealth for Jamaicans. And that's my honest position. So the good thing is that we've taken it so seriously that the Honorable Minister has actually ensured that the structure of the TEF facilitates blue ocean development. And here we were in 2017 with only 3 departments: finance, HR, and admin, and our projects department, which you know, mostly focus on infrastructure projects and so on. But since then, we've added the Tourism Linkages network, and they focus a lot on innovation, basically facilitating a lot of our local producers to be able to bridge a gap between what they produce and what tourism consumes. And a lot of that requires changing the way they produce things. Farmers, for instance, will recognize that instead of the crop style farming, where they plant one time of the year and then they water and they weed and then they harvest another time of the year, and then they try and sell all their produce at once before it spoils, and then they make a money, and then they buy some rum and then they start over, right? You know, in fact, if you think about it, the carnival in Barbados is called crop over, because that has been the pattern. When the crop is over, they have a carnival, they party and drink, and then they start over again. So, but of course, in tourism, you have visitors every day that need their hungry mouths to feed. So they have to develop a whole tiered farming system where they're planting almost every week so that they're harvesting every week to be able to supply the contracts that they have in the hotel. So there are all these adjustments and changes and innovations that they have to make, or local sectors to make, to be able to supply tourism. On top of it, the TLN has to focus on getting those local producers who are producing products that are unique to Jamaica to make it add to Jamaica's diversity and add to Jamaica's unique offerings. So when you hear that we have one of the best coffees in the world, for instance, we have to develop that in such a way that it makes destination Jamaica, somebody who is a coffee connoisseur and was thinking of going to Barbados or thinking of going somewhere else, when they see that all of Jamaica's coffee producers are doing, and the Linkages program that has a coffee festival, for example, as one of the ways of polishing off and developing and building out the capacity and placing coffee on the tourism landscape, then what happened? Let me say more. I don't want to act as if it hasn't been solid before, but we've added it more to the tourism landscape. Then what it creates now is that a flight coming into Jamaica can be full with visitors coming, and all of the seats have a visitor coming for a different reason, because we have so much to offer. We have our gastronomy, we have our sports and entertainment, we have our coming for knowledge exchange, we have for shopping. So that's the idea of innovating with the Linkages network, and they are here in TEF. In fact, this forum is put on by the Linkages network. We also have the JCTI and Research and Risk Department. So JCTI stands for Jamaica Center of Tourism Innovation. So again, the innovation you see it comes front and center and very strong in the Tourism Enhancement Fund, as while JCTI currently focuses on certification programs to make sure our local employees have the requisite certification to get the top jobs in tourism. There's a variety of innovation components in the JCTI. The research and risk management, again, the research component is crucial. We have to ensure that we do the research, follow the trends, see what opportunities come up. In fact, the Research and Risk Department is creating a tourism incubator. So it's not just that we are going to stay here in the offices in Kingston now and think of all the innovative ideas to go into Blue Ocean for tourism, when we have so many stakeholders out there who have brilliant minds, brilliant ideas. And the idea is that we now are providing this medium for them to incubate these ideas, to nurse them, to develop them, to hatch them, so to speak, so that they become full products as we go forward. Even though we have added these three new departments in the TEF specifically for Blue Ocean and innovation, we also have tweaked our projects department with the infrastructure works to include Blue Ocean projects. And an example is, for instance, our beaches that we are developing. We've developed beach over many years, but with the Blue Ocean attitude towards beaches, we have picked out beaches that add an added feature that it's hard for any other island to compete with, because that natural added asset just happens to be in Jamaica. And one of the features that we've noticed in a lot of our beaches is that it has rivers running adjacent to these beaches. And so what we've done in our beaches development program is we have created a component of the beach development to incorporate the river section, so that you have like a beach plus experience. You're not just going and it's just beach and sand and so on, because every other country has that. We are now going into a new dimension where you have a beach experience next to a river experience. So you can go with a family and some are there by the river, or you can even spend some time by the beach and some time by the river, and so on. This is the design that we're showing here for Rio Nuevo Beach. That's the beach section, and this is the river section that we're developing. This is the development for Alligator Pond, and if you notice, it has a river running through. There's a beach on the landward side, then you have the river, then you have a beach again, and then you have the ocean. I mean, my goodness, how blessed are we in Jamaica? I don't think it's very difficult to find anywhere like that in the world. And the idea is that when we develop those kind of assets, then people don't have a choice. We're no longer competing with others because we have something that nobody else has. And that's the idea of our infrastructure development. So here's the incubator I told you about. And here, in fact, I'm going to stop there, but just to reassure everyone that we are not just committed, but we've set up our structure, and we have projects, and we are advancing heavily in the Blue Ocean strategy. We really anticipate that tourism with the kind of growth. Remember the first slides that I showed that showed Facebook and Airbnb, that kind of exponential growth is what we are really after when it comes on to developing destination Jamaica, so that it can create the wealth that this country needs for all of us to live a great quality of life.
Thank you so much, Dr. Wallace, for your presentation. And I want to raise, Mr. Dobson, you said the plane land, and now we're disembarking from the plane quite orderly. Thank you, Dr. Wallace, for pulling out some of the continued elements of inclusiveness. We can hear the passion when you speak about the need for Jamaicans to benefit from tourism, right? And also the linkages, when you touched on linkages, as the previous speaker, Mr. Dobson, did, on the need to strengthen the linkages while reducing the leakages. And I think this is very important for us as we look to bounce back, reimagine, and build forward stronger. Usually they say build back stronger, but I like this positive twist on it, building forward stronger. I want to thank our viewers on social media. I have a few comments. Thank you for your comments on the presentations. I did have a comment here that in response to Mr. Dobson's presentation, that these changes, the strategic changes, should include risk management analysis, for example, how we're coping with the pandemic, how we're living with COVID. And there was also a comment on a comparison with the Red Ocean strategy, which you did do. And I want to encourage our viewers, please, we want to hear from you. We're enjoying seeing the comments, and we also want to hear your questions when we get to the question and answer segment. Now, our next speaker joined on his appointment as Director of Tourism to the Jamaica Tourist Board in 2018. And he brings to that role over 20 years of experience as a senior executive in marketing and business development. Like our other speakers, he's quite passionate. He's passionate about sports. And even with a heavy plate, he does find some time to serve as president of the Waterhouse Football Club. Director of Tourism, Mr. Donovan White, you have the floor.
Thank you, Taisha. Morning, everyone. David, Carrie, how are you? It is a pleasure being here on this lovely, damp Thursday morning. Quite unusual for this week. We've had bright sunshine, but it's good to have a little bit of drizzle working in the winds there. But it's great to be amongst David and Carrie this morning, because this direction that the ministry has guided our path to is an interesting one for, as you heard from Carrie and from David, for the future sustainability, growth, and diversity of our tourism product. I want to make clear mention that I think, given the importance of what this strategic framework that has been used by many large and small corporate entities and some governments around the world to change the fortunes of their products, of their businesses, and of the diversity that they can create in marketing. You know, for tourism and for Jamaica, this means that we have, I suppose, come full circle in understanding that the importance of our tourism product to the well-being of Jamaicans and to the well-being of, or rather for the leadership as well of regional tourism is important for us at this time. I'm not going to share you any slides. I'm going to talk you through a little bit of what this means for Jamaica from a brand and marketing perspective, and how it will be used, and what the outlook is like for us at this point in time, from not from a numbers perspective, but certainly from a planning or strategic thinking perspective. Because I think if you always start there, the numbers tend to follow if you do the right things and you do them well. There are four key parts of this framework, and I think Carrie and David covered three of them very well. David covered the institutional framework and the governance structure that must flow from a strategy like this. And Carrie, who leads the Tourism Enhancement Fund, which is so invested in our well-being as an industry because of the job that it does, spoke to the issue of supply and spoke to the issue of human capital development. When you take those three pieces of this four-legged car, then all that's left for me to talk about really is how do we build demand to make this vehicle truly take off into stratosphere. Now, Jamaica's had a very successful tourism product for many years. We have been able to drive demand in various parts of the world through the promulgation of our product features and characteristics, but also through the creativity of how the destination is positioned and marketed. So much so that we have grown exponentially in terms of certainly over the last 5 years. We have seen growth rates of upwards of 7.5–8% annualized, average annualized over the last 5 years, with the exception obviously of COVID hit 2020 and of course COVID hit 2021. But even the recovery from COVID at 2021 is looking extremely aggressive. 22 is even more aggressive. But I think one of the things that I must speak of is from a marketing and demand creation standpoint, what will be the four-legged tool that we will use within the framework of the Blue Ocean strategy to ensure that we can take the work that has been done by the ministry, the work that has continued to be done by Tourism Enhancement Fund and the Tourism Product Development Company, because they together will take care of the first two things I'll mention. And the first one is product development, because without a product, we have nothing to market. Without a product that is, secondly, innovated differently and enhanced, we are not going to be able to divest ourselves of red ocean tactics and really move into creating new markets, creating new opportunities, and going where nobody else has gone before, or going there so much earlier than anybody else can go, that you almost create a situation where you will be able to grow exponentially for a longer period before your chief competitors can compete with you. So the first two things that we have to be focused on is product development, and we have to be focused on existing product innovation and enhancement. And I think Kira spoke of that quite well when he spoke about what we're doing with our beach developments, what we're doing with our linkages network to ensure that we create a differentiated product set that allows for visitors to Jamaica to see a different side of Jamaica, sometimes see what they never expected, get what they never expected. And it also allows, from a demand creation perspective, for us to redefine how we position those new innovations and those new product enhancements in the existing marketplace, which we call Red Ocean, or how we redefine how we strategize to going after new markets, so that the third leg of the tool I am speaking about now speaks to the whole issue of market diversification. I think that there are parts of the world that if you walk into a store and your beatbox is playing One Love, or it's playing Three Little Birds, or You know, any Bob Marley, any Jimmy Cliff, any Dennis Brown, or if in fact I have had the pleasure of walking into a sports store in the middle of Beijing and seeing a life-size statue of Usain Bolt, and there are Chinese people that are surrounding this statue on a daily basis to take a photograph. The point I'm making is that there are some inherent value added or value proposition that we have not truly been able to use. We've certainly done well with them, whether deliberately or inherently, but we now have to product innovate to ensure that we can maximize the use of some of our strategic assets that are heritage in nature. Music, entertainment, sports, culture, in its truest sense, are things that we believe our Blue Ocean marketing positioning will allow us to enable our diversification of the product wherever we take it, and to identify where we are not invested as a brand, and ensure that we can exact from that those new markets opportunities that are going to allow us to grow incrementally. I'll speak about one in a moment, but the fourth leg of the cart that we're wheeling is how organizationally we retrofit and realign our own organization for this new frontier of engaging new marketplaces, of creating new demand. How do we train our people? How do we reculture our people into new market spaces? How do we develop new presence for the Jamaica brand as living, breathing structures in new marketplaces that will be able to touch and feel, as they say, press flesh in places where we don't do today, so that we create an enhanced position for the brand, so that when we are promoting, marketing, executing, activating, when we are driving for new growth, when we talk about hitting 5 million visitors, 5 billion revenues, and 5,000 new rooms in 5 years, that we're not speaking in a vacuum, or we're not speaking numbers that are not substantiated by strategic positioning. So we have an awesome job to do. There is a great dependence on our country, Jamaica, and the economy of Jamaica, and the recovery of our economy from the ravages of COVID-19, to ensure that we not only put our best foot forward, but that we not put one foot, we are able to jump both feet into the blue ocean, where we believe the opportunities are unbridled, they are unlimited, but you have to be prepared. You have to be product ready, because a number of these markets that we're looking at, for example, most of our viewers would hear lots talk about in the last month or so about our our traverse into the Middle Eastern region of the world. That region of the world, if you include North Africa, Asia, Asia minor countries, is well over 500 million citizens by population. It's a market that, and I say that by contrast, our red ocean markets, which are the US, the UK, and Canada, together is less than 500 million population. So just by our ability to build relationships, strategically align ourselves in an entirely new region of the world, and develop the things that sustain tourism, which begins with the ability to transport people, whether by air or by sea. It continues with the ability for us to understand the cultural and the business nuances of this new region, so that we can, as I said before, build new products and innovate or retrofit existing products to facilitate the taste and preferences of these new marketplaces. These things we have thought about long and hard. We have already begun to make those adjustments. We have already begun to have discussions with investors from that region, so that we are able to bring a product in the Jamaica space that is going to be aligned, easily aligned and understood by the audiences that we're actually talking to. So you will see from the conversation I'm having with you that our approach is not disjointed at all. In fact, it is more than ever. I believe the tourism leadership team and the tourism family is at one and on one page as it relates to not just how do we grow this industry, but how do we create an industry that Jamaica is going to benefit from, and that tourism can continue to be not just our number one industry in name, but our number one industry in terms of earnings, in terms of contribution to GDP, so that we can employ more people, we can bring more benefits to the tourism area, and so that we get past, for example, making references to resort areas. Jamaica is a resort area, and that's what it should be. All of Jamaica should be part of our tourism product, and indeed it is. And so part of what we have to embrace is the fact that tourism touches everybody, whether on the supply side, where Kerry is focused with linkages and with product enhancements, or on the human capital side, where we should be continuing our push to make the secondary school curriculum include as a sustainable approach tourism education and tourism marketing and product development curriculum, so that we have a constant supply of industry-ready minds that can enter the industry at a very early age whilst they continue their further education. We want to see that become, and that has already started, by the way. Kerry mentioned JCTI. That's a big program that got started in 2018 and has continued to engage our secondary school students. So now we have more 19-year-olds leaving school with an appetite for Jamaica's number one industry. What that does is it now forces our universities to take stock of the quality of students that are leaving our high school system and wanting to study tourism management, so that there is now a keen focus on creating higher level learning in our tertiary institution for tourism. And then what we are having to do once that happens is we now must force the same tertiary institutions to begin to look at MBA programs that have a specific slant towards higher leadership learning specific to the tourism and hospitality space. Because I believe if we begin to pull that triangle together, then Blue Ocean can be lived in a real way, because now you're not just creating products for visitors who come to the country. You've actually now created an industry for the nation to be acutely aligned to, and for it to be celebrated, understood, and treated as a treasure as it ought to be. So from our perspective at the Tourist Board, and certainly from mine as leader of the Tourist Board, our Blue Ocean approach is all encompassing. It starts at home, but we have the distinct pleasure of taking that strategy well and truly into the world, to ensure that everyone we meet, everyone our advertising, our marketing, our activations touches, understands that Jamaica is different. Our product offering is different. It is geared towards driving growth, development, and sustainability every time we put our foot forward. With that, I thank you for your time and look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Mr. White, and just thank you for that engaging sort of conversation. I'm sure the viewers did appreciate that. And just a reminder, just the framing of the components of the Blue Ocean strategy as you did, the demand measures, the supply measures, the institutional governance measures, and the human capital measures. And just a reminder for viewers, because this is the Knowledge Network's online series, so we want to ensure that you are learning from this experience. Just to give a reminder of the strategic goals from the Blue Ocean strategy, as was highlighted in all the presentations in different shapes and forms. So we remember these keywords: enhancing the resilience of the tourism sector. So resilience is a keyword for us. Developing a sustainable tourism environment, and we heard speak of sustainability and just being there and inclusive. Inclusiveness has been stressed in all three presentations. The innovation, Mr. White just spoke about innovation of the product, innovation and diversification for a differentiated tourism product that gives some value to the visitors. Also, attracting high quality investments. How will we do that? A more balanced, more high quality portfolio that is not only directed towards accommodations, but considers attractions as well and other activities. And to reduce the leakages and strengthen and build those linkages. Now, for viewers, we're at the point where we want to hear from you. So this is our question and answer segment. You have been communicating in the chats on the social media, and this is a reminder. If you're not yet following the Tourism Enhancement Fund, please do so now on all their social media platforms at TEF Jamaica. That's TEF Jamaica, JAMAICA. Now, some questions for our panelists. And the first one is for you, Mr. Dobson. From your presentation, you spoke of the current business model, which would be akin to the Red Ocean model, and the focus there on accommodation, the all-inclusive. So when you mentioned the growth targets, that was just reminded by Mr. White, 5 million visitors, earning $5 billion, 5,000 additional rooms by 2025. Given the experience that you've had, is there any prioritization of any of these growth targets? Are you focusing on accommodation first? Are you focusing on your visitors first? How are you approaching this in a priority strategic way?
Thank you very much, Taisha, and thanks for the person who raised that question. Quite a good question. I don't know if I want to frame it in terms of priority, but you do know that for building out of rooms, that takes time. And so one of the things I didn't mention is that the Blue Ocean strategy, we have divided up the trajectory in 3 phases. One is the short term, which speaks to the first 2 years, medium term, 2 to 4 years, and the long term. So the essence of it is that in the short term, our aim is to more on building back stronger, returning to our pre-pandemic levels, bringing the visitors to fill back the rooms we already had. And you would be aware that even during the pandemic, new rooms continued to be constructed. So while that is going on, our major focus now is to really return to our normal level as well as to tap into new markets. Now, one of the things we also never had time to go into is that where we're heading in terms of our heritage and culture, and we talk about the new demands. We do know that the heritage and cultural type of products are more highly demanded by travelers from Europe, for example. I'm sad to say we do not rank very high at this time with among our region with visitors from Europe. And I know that the JTB, Mr. White, is online and they are making grounds, for example, to tap a little more into that market so that we can bring the visitors in. But you do know that for them to come, you must have the product. So I'm putting it in this way that we have to be careful how we say priority. But we did understand that the product development side, we're going to see more of that coming in the medium term. And as it relates to the new rooms, while some continues, we expect to see more of the rooms in the longer term, which is the 4 years and beyond. And we also want to say that one of the emphasis we have on new rooms is that we would like to see, especially in the untapped areas, we would like to see development of more EP hotels in those areas. So we would want to see our investors, trending in that direction. So I hope I've answered your question. If you're not clear, then you can let me know.
Thank you, Mr. Dobson. And yes, we'll keep a close eye to see if there's a follow-up on that. There's also a question here on public perception that sometimes on social media, Jamaicans don't view tourism as really being a strong contributor to the economy. I find that rather strange given the fact that we know that tourism contributes directly at least or more than 10% to GDP, but clearly there's this perception that we need to diversify away from the sun, sand, all of the beach tourism, and we need to move into new markets. Now, Dr. Wallace's question is for you. How, through TEF, will you work on improving the public perception of tourism for Jamaicans? I know the tourism tagline is tourism working for you. How do we show Jamaicans that?
Right. So, I believe when a local starts to benefit from tourism directly, I think it will help to diffuse that perception. I can understand how it could have developed in the past, and I can understand where, a lot of the large plants in tourism, the large hotels in tourism are owned by international investors. Still, there are so many other diverse components to tourism, not just supplying that mainstream tourism, let's call it that, mainstream being the large all-inclusive and so on. We know they move a lot of volumes. Still, but one of our challenges is that it overshadows the potential that we have otherwise, you know what I mean? And one of the ways to look at it is to say, for instance, our competing islands around us in the Caribbean. You take some of those islands, and just to share a size, some of them are not even as big as one of our smallest parishes. Yet their numbers are a lot more. If you take out individual parishes, their numbers are bigger. And so when you think of the variety of assets, take Portland, for instance, and how many beaches they have and how many rivers and waterfalls they have just as a parish, they should be almost thinking of Barbados being their competitor, not, but I'm just trying to give you an idea of the potential for growth in tourism of all of the 14 parishes across Jamaica. And that's how we approach it, you see. And that's the opportunity. Just because large all-inclusive tourism is booming doesn't mean that there isn't great opportunity for other types of tourism to boom. And that's why we're going into relatively untapped areas. I mean, Rio Nuevo, Alligator Pond, these are relatively untapped areas where we're going in and taking one of their greatest assets, which is their beaches next to the rivers and so on, and developing them so that it becomes a catalyst for tourism entrepreneurship, for tourism supply. in those areas so that more and more persons can benefit from it. And then, when they are buying their new car and building their new house from the tourism dollar, I'm sure the bashing will stop. They'll really see the potential and the opportunity what that tourism provides. And I think the more we get that achieved is the more the entire industry will benefit. I mean, when we in our beaches development, one of the things that we do, is that we go and have a town hall meeting even before we put the pen to paper. So we hire a designer, an architect, and then we go and meet with the people of the community. And we say to them, you help us tell us what to design. Tell us what to design, what you'd like to see there. You've been living there for generations and so on. We're not just going to design something in Kingston and come down there and force it on you. We're saying, you, it, and us, we're collaborating together. And when we go from that early, they know what's coming, so they can put things in train so that when we cut the ribbon on that beach development, they would already have the tour company. They would already have the transportation opportunities. They would already have other tour guide businesses set up around it so that all of us can ride the wave of that development in their area. So more and more we believe is helpful. I believe that the linkages programs, which are getting our producers to supply tourism, and even with the pandemic, the way we still facilitated. So I'll give you an example. When the pandemic hit and the hotels had closed right down, when we closed our borders, we had a situation where a lot of the farmers had crops in the fields rotting. And what we did through linkages was we said, hey, let us purchase these produce so that the farmers still get the revenue, still are able to stay alive, still allowed to pivot. And those purchases we used to create food packages that we then gave to the tourism workers who were furloughed by the closing of the hotels. So it was a win-win right around. And I believe that the suppliers respected and appreciated that and saw tourism, as how it should be, this industry that is all encompassing, that has many moving parts, as our minister always says. And we need to hold all those moving parts together. Okay. So I look forward to the trend continuing where we are building a better reputation with tourism.
With tourism locally. Thank you, Dr. Wallace. Now, the next question we have here is for Mr. White. What are travelers to Jamaica most interested in today? Is it a luxury hotel stay or is it an outdoor excursion, for example?
Hi. Yeah. Well, travelers. Let me answer it in a broader perspective, because I think travelers to Jamaica are sometimes not necessarily unique to travelers elsewhere, and travelers around the world are all looking for a great experience, first of all. But people travel for their passions. People travel for different reasons. People travel because they're looking for a great getaway. They may be influenced by the food or the culture of where they go. They may be influenced by a sporting activity or an entertainment activity or a cultural experience. There are many things that drive the interests of travelers around the world. I think what we have that most other destinations, certainly most of our immediate competing destinations don't have, is the strength of our brand, one. And the strength of our brand is made by the strength of the characteristics of that brand, which are led by our cultural heritage. Our music tends to lead the way with that. Our food is unique. You can only find ackee and saltfish in Jamaica. You can only find the real escovitch fish in Jamaica and on the beaches of Jamaica. And there are so many other delicacies within our brand characteristics that we include in our marketing mix that allows for us to drive that differentiation. So ultimately, why people travel is entirely based on what their own taste and preferences are and what they're looking for. What we have to do is to ensure that every time we put our foot forward, we are driving our own characteristics, which usually ladder up into the taste and preferences of the traveler.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. White. Now, the next question is back to you, Dr. Wallace. This is on employment. Since the JCTI falls under your purview, someone online wants to know, this is Patrice, what is it that is being done within this new strategic framework to increase employment for persons in the tourism sector?
So one of the things that we're doing is taking advantage of the technology that's available to be able to present, almost have a blue ocean approach to presenting employees and the skilled labor that we have here in Jamaica to our recruiters and HR personnel in the hotel sectors and attractions. So the idea is we have Jamaicans, in a lot of cases, they are great at providing the service required in the hotels. In a lot of instances, they don't have the actual certification. And so the JCTI came in to partner with international accreditation bodies, the AHLEI, the American Culinary Federation, and so on, to provide these certification courses so that now the Jamaican tourism worker is not only great at what they do, they also have the paper, they also have the certificate. So then what that means is they're now moving from a job to a career, you see, and because having the requisite certifications, they can then advance in international hospitality areas, whether if here in the local hotels, or in the international chains, or even abroad. They now migrate because it's been unfortunate. You see so many persons who are great and have years of experience and good at what they do, and they go to work on a cruise ship, for instance, and they have to almost start from the bottom because and they are doing the bulk of the work, while the person who gets a big salary can't do half of what they can do, but the person getting the big salary has a certification. So that's what we're correcting with JCTI here, and thankfully we've had many success stories and many certifications that we've rolled out over the years. As far as it relates to this specific question on the employment from a blue ocean strategy, we are going into the high schools because, again, there's another inequity, for want of a better word, that Donovan actually mentioned, which is that tourism is our #1 industry, but yet our human resource development in Jamaica tends to sidestep tourism. Tourism is almost an afterthought. So all the brightest kids in our brightest high schools in Jamaica, for instance, right now, I would probably want to guess that a lot of them are not being steered into tourism. They're being steered to become lawyers and doctors and engineers and the regular pathways. Yet the employment opportunities would naturally come from the #1 industry, which is tourism. And so unfortunately, in a lot of our tourism plans, you still see where a lot of the top jobs have to be imported because, and so that's something we're fixing. And the HTMP program in high schools that we've rolled out, 23 high schools that we have hospitality and tourism management programs for 2 years in those high schools, so that the children graduate from high school already with a tourism certificate that they can then build on. In fact, they can enter the tourism space from high school and then climb the ladder with that from that starting rung, so to speak. So I mean, it's been so successful that hotel chains have approached us to actually get interns out of that cohort, and sometimes one hotel chain wants all of the interns, so you don't even have any left over. So that's how successful that program has been. But the technology that I alluded to earlier, where we're matching that with our offerings, is that we are getting like a LinkedIn, but for local tourism. So basically, we will have all our certified tourism workers and so on this platform that then makes it easy for an HR person in the hotels who now wants a sous chef, for instance. So with a few clicks to be able to find all the sous chefs that are available, the certifications that they have and so on, and easily choose a local expert and get that perfect fit that makes the industry have all the resources it needs. It's one thing to have the building, and it's one thing to have the beds, and one thing to have the lobbies and so on, but the people are what make up such a huge part of it.
Thank you so much, Dr. Wallace. Now, our final question is directed to the CTD, Chief Technical Director, Mr. David Dobson. And this is coming from Richard. Richard wants to know, is there any strategy concept where the private sector may be engaged to assist or drive the interests of the tourism ministry as far as destination assurance in safety, risk, and quality are concerned? I think that's quite a mouthful, so I'll read that again for you, Mr. Dobson. Is there any strategy concept where the private sector may be engaged to assist or drive the interests of the tourism ministry as far as destination assurance in safety, risk, and quality are concerned?
And I just love that question. Thank you so very much for it. So let me preface my response by saying to you that, well, from the framing of the question, it suggests to me that you're aware that the ministry is currently doing a destination assurance strategy and framework. That framework and strategy is pretty much finished, and we are just in the process of submitting to cabinet for a green paper, where at which time we would do some further consultation for it to become a white paper. So I like the question in that the essence of that is that we will be engaging all our relevant stakeholders, both in the public and private sector, as part of that, because destination assurance is everybody's business, and the aim of it is to ensure that we do everything to ensure that the visitor's experience, and Minister uses 3 words that are 3 buzzwords. The visitor's experience must be what? 3 S words: safety, security, and seamlessness. Now, we did the strategy and framework on the premise that we well appreciate that tourism as a sector doesn't operate by itself. It engages every other sector. And so every sector has to play their part in making tourism work. And since tourism is a major player to the economy of Jamaica, then it means that we would want everybody to see it as so and participate in having that done. So yes, there are strategies to participate, and one of the main one is that we intend to establish service level agreements with the respective government ministries, agencies, private sector, and then on the ground through our destination assurance councils and destination assurance manager, we will have those interactions, and we will ensure that the agreements, that the functions are carried out according to agreed. And if that's not so, escalated to a high level where we can engage further to really flesh out and improve. But yes, that is definitely on, and we thank you for the question and look forward to your participation in that regard.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dobson. And can you believe it? Time flies when you're having fun. We are now at the end of our program, but I just want to remind, earlier when I was introducing the speakers, I spoke of their passions. I spoke of Mr. Dobson's passion for community service, Dr. Wallace's passion for running and languages, Mr. White's passion for sports. And Mr. White also spoke of these passion points. In tourism, we speak of the passion points, and you've heard them: gastronomy, shopping, health and wellness, knowledge, sport and entertainment. Now I want you to consider, what are your passion points? For me, it's gastronomy and shopping. Don't tell anybody. Thank you all for joining us today. I do hope that you learned much, that this was valuable information for you. And if you would like to rewatch part 1 in this series, please visit TEF's YouTube or Facebook pages to see the complete video. I was your moderator, and it was a pleasure. My name is Taisha Turner, and I'm wishing you a beautiful Thursday in spite of the rain.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
You.
Jamaica.
Best decision ever.
Feel the sand between your toes and the gentle waves of the sea on your skin. Feel the warm Jamaican breeze lift your spirits and nourish your soul. Escape to exactly what makes your heart beat. You will love every moment. Jamaica, heartbeat of the world. Let's go.